Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey. Karl Bryan coming at you for another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. I'm here today without my boy, Road Dog. It is literally New Year's Day, 2026. So I gave my boy, Road Dog, the day off, said, don't worry about it. And here we are. So we're here, sans Road Dog. But I got a few questions, and hey, let's get into it. Okay, so let me just pull this up. Road Dog's first question. He wants to know, Road Dog, my favorite Christmas present this year. There you go. This is an easy one. So I got my wife bought me it. My wife and I have been together 20 years this year. Kind of wild. Not married for 20 years, but we've been together for 20 years. So very cool. Poor thing, by the way, put up with me for 20 years, my heavens. But anyway, so she always buys me really cool presents, to be honest with you. She kind of nails it. I am not quite so good at it. But anyway, she got me a set of Meta sunglasses. And I got to tell you, folks, these things are impressive, right? So if you don't know Meta sunglasses, like they've got, you can listen like audio coming straight into your ears. You can take photos, and you can do all kinds of stuff. Look them up. But anyway, so, and I always wondered, like I go to the gym every day, right? And I see these guys there wearing sunglasses. And I'm thinking, like, why are these guys wearing sunglasses? Like, what planet am I on where guys are wearing sunglasses? And guess what? I now know why they're wearing sunglasses, because they're actually Meta sunglasses, and that's how they're getting they're listening to music or podcasts or whatever. And by the way, I ain't ever going to be the guy at the gym wearing sunglasses. Just not going to happen. Zero chance. But what I do, actually, I put them up on my head, and then I just kind of put them so that the ear thing's around my ear, and then the glasses are up on my forehead or whatever. Anyway, so I can listen to podcasts and that sort of thing at the gym, and I like that. I can't wear I don't have the best hearing. Like my hearing stinks. So when I listen, like AirPods just don't do it for me. Anyway, so if you're thinking about Meta sunglasses, I am on record as saying they're awesome. So if you see a guy at the gym or a gal wearing sunglasses, I may have just answered a question that you also have. Anywho, okay, so next question. Give us some New Year magic and direction for 2026. So, well, of course, great question. It's New Year's Day, right? Time. But let me tell you this, New Year, what is it? New Year, new you, New Year, new you is not a thing, right? Expecting next year to change without effort. It's like going to the airport, waiting for a ship, or going to the marina and looking for an airplane to come and land. It's not going to happen, right? Get me a crystal ball to see your discipline and consistency over the next 365 days, 12 months, 52 weeks, and that'll tell us both how the year will unfold for you. It's like, think of like your marketing should positively impact 100 times as many people as your client list does, right? So like, how many people on your email list, how helpful are you on those emails, right? Because if it's sell Mortimer, that stinks. That's not going to work, right? Got to help them. How many people listen to your podcast? Do you have a podcast? How many people attend your webinars? How helpful are those webinars for those that attend and do not buy from you? How many people attend those events? So that's how you make an impact this year, and by the way, you might not have those things in place, and that is understandable, but guess what you got to do? You just got to start. And in fact, like straight from my office whiteboard, I don't care about your ideas. I care about your execution, right? Your consistency and your discipline are mission critical. And remember, the best time to start was yesterday. So the second best time is when, and that is now, and just get after it, right? You got to just start with one. Just get it out. Get your first email. You know what I mean? Like get your first email out, get your first podcast going, do your first presentation, do your first webinar, etc. And like you said, if you probably list, I do a daily email. Hopefully you read it. It's very good. If you don't, check it out. Um, but if you saw it originally, like, when it first, like, and it's right there on the internet, you could go look at it, like day 1, day 2, day 3. I mean, it was a dog's breakfast, right? Like literally it was just a dog's breakfast. And what happened over time, and now I don't even know where I'm at, but well over 1,000. I might be approaching 1,500 maybe. But at the end of the day, I'd like a framework, and you could see it if you just went from, day 1 to day 1,500 or wherever I'm at, you'd be able to see the style unfold. And by the way, they used to take me an hour and a half to write. And now, you know what I mean? I can rip them off in 30 minutes very comfortably, if not far less than that. But anyway, so what did I do? I got it started. Did I plan to do 1,500 in a row when I started? Absolutely not. I believe what I wanted to do was 30 days. Guess what? Got the 30, kept going. And now, and my dad said, when are you going to stop? And my answer to him was never. He's like, oh my gosh, son. But anyway, so you got to get it going. But again, you might not have it going. So the best time to start is when, and that would be yesterday, but you can't do that. So you just start now. And, measure, how would I say that? Like measure your life in distance traveled and not time spent, right? Like get focused on your personal growth, get focused on your business growth, get focused on your business coaching talents growth, get dialed in on your skill set development, right? But not clock time. Like translation, it's not 10,000 hours, right? It's 10,000 reps. And the question is, how quickly can you do those reps, right? Measure your success and how far you go, and not time on the tools, right? Studying versus training, right? Studying is listening to podcasts, doing the course, going to the YouTube video, reading the book. Training is doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again until it becomes instinctual, right? Studying is important, but training is where you need to move to, where you need to get to, and where you really need to excel. And by the way, that's why last year, probably the number one thing that we developed, and we developed a lot, software, we integrated AI into our software, and, we just really moved the needle on our training, that sort of stuff. But the AI business coaching dojo, needle mover, right? You could use it for 24 hours straight and get done more reps than another coach could get in, multiple years, right? You just literally work on it 24 hours a day, like 21 AI agents ready, waiting for you to dominate a business coach, right? So at the end of the day, though, it's not time spent and time on tools. It is reps, right? Kind of the same as studying versus training. Something else I would think about is like about your New Year's roadmap, right? Like there's a clock ticking that you can't see, right? I've got a clock ticking, right? That unfortunately I can't see, right? So if you only had 12 months to live, your priorities would shift instantly and wildly, right? Like translation, your give a crap meter, we could call it, would be close to zero, right? So like in that vein, a great goal and desire for your new year is to stop getting offended, right? So you get offended, you're instantly controllable, right? You get angry and you've already lost the argument or the discussion, whether it be with a prospect, a client, your wife, your son, your daughter, a grandkid, a friend, right? So stop getting offended. And the good news is you'll stop being controlled. And then I would ask you a question, like, how does it feel? How does it feel when you feel controlled, right? Probably not very good. Certainly if you're me, that is horrible. And that may or may not be note to self for 2026, right? So that's possibly a worthy goal. Stop being offended, stop being controlled is what I'm really saying. And by what? By outside forces. And guess what you can't control? Outside forces. Like a prospect doesn't reply, all good. Guess what? They're just busy, right? They're not ignoring you. It's not a slight. They're just busy. Or, your client wants to cancel and you feel like, oh my gosh, we've done so much good. This is ridiculous. look, all good. And you know what you got to do? You got to do your best to save them, live with the result, send it out to the universe. And remember, it's not like there's a shortage of business owners out there that you can help, right? And if you feel that way, it's just you introduce me to a coach with a lack of leads, and I'll introduce you to a coach with a lack of confidence. So it just comes back to your confidence and then ultimately your conviction, right? And especially like we talk about getting offended, like, the idiot sprouting political hoo-ha-ha on Facebook, Instagram, wherever, right? Just look the other way, right? Like if there was a piece of crap on the street, I dare say the last thing you do is step in it, right? I think that is getting into a political hoo-ha-ha on Facebook. And I've seen some of the elite minds out there, needlessly trying to get into that stuff. And at the end of the day, guess what? They're getting controlled by outside forces. And I would dare say that's a bad thing. Like always remember, needing nothing attracts everything, right? Maybe speaking of that, like, so I wrote an email this week and it was like it's goal versus desire effectively, right? Your goals and your desires, your prospects' goals and desires, your clients' goals and desires often run counter to one another. So your client's goal, example, right? Like your client's goal is to get in shape, but their desire is late night snacking and they can't control it. Right? Your client's goal is to get new clients, but they desire to stay behind their computer and skip the networking function, or they think Facebook ads are a scam, right? Your client's goal is to have a great marriage, but they desire to worry more about who takes out the trash, or they desire to worry about who's right, right? How does that work out in a marriage, right? You introduce me to somebody who's been married for 50 years, and we say that, oh my gosh, they get the greatest marriage. It's so awesome. Speak to them individually. And they are going to tell you that their marriage has been a roller coaster of epic proportions, of massive highs and wild lows. And the difference between them and their friends who got divorced is they just managed to pound through, right? Like it was an up and down. Remember, nobody stands in line for a flat roller coaster, right? That is marriage. But at the end of the day, you just gotta, you gotta get to the other side. You gotta, pick your battles. You're maybe back to your clients. Their goal is to build a big business, but then they desire not to hire anyone. They desire not to manage anything or anyone. Right. Or again, they do hire somebody and they hire somebody less intelligent than themselves on some subconscious level, right? They feel like they need to be the smartest person in the room. Is that a good idea? I think you know the answer to that. It's not a bad idea. It's a horrible idea. You want to hire people smarter than you and complementary to you. They want to hire people smarter than them and complementary to them and their skill set, right? Your client's goal is to get lots of new clients, but they desire not to spend money on advertising, right? New goals, bottom line, the new goals require new desires. And then my question is, what are your new desires that are going to get you to your new goals, right? And by the way, the way to create goals is to do what? To write down what it is that you want in a high level of detail. But then importantly, and I'm going to say more importantly, then write down why you want those goals, right? Again, that's good. The why is going to be more important than the what. So, and again, being detailed as possible, both emotionally and physically in terms of how you're going to feel and then what you're going to get, what the end result's going to be. I think that would be a good plan. And then, like your goal, like you're a business coach and you're looking to, knock it out of the park and really educate a lot of people. And you agree that, educating gobs and gobs of people locally and in your community is going to be a positive thing. Okay. What do you got to do? Your goal is to have 52 live events this year. Remember, my job isn't to give you your goal, right? But you need to decide, is that what you want? And then you tell me yes. And I say, well, why do you want that? But it's like, so basically you're going to have one every week, right? So why do you want that? Maybe what's that going to mean for you? What's that going to mean about your consistency? What's that going to mean about your discipline and your ability to follow through? How is doing 52 live events going to affect you? How's it going to affect your business? How's it going to affect your life? How's it going to affect your marriage? How's it going to affect you as a parent? How good will that feel? What will that mean for your bank balance? What will that mean for your local reputation? What will that mean for the number of referrals? What will that mean for the number of joint ventures? What will that mean about how good your presentation will get. And then translation, the people that come will get a higher level of impact. How much impact could you have on your local community if you followed through on that? Imagine like going to the mall and having somebody stop you and you're with your kids and the person is stopping you talking about your presentation and how impactful it was. And then they're mentioning, you probably don't realize it, but I've sent 20 referrals your way to go to your events at the chamber on Tuesday at 7 a.m., right? Like how good would that feel? And if you feel like that would feel really good, that should go in your plan and that should be part of your why, right? And the other thing, so 2026, you get around people and socialize. And then you say, look, well, just give me a small amount of direction around that. Not that you would need too much direction around it, but you got to calendarize it, right? Like stop the doom scrolling on that darn phone for sure. Remember, loneliness is an epidemic, right? We all feel it. Like they say, loneliness is the equivalent of 15 cigarettes a day for your long-term health. And all I can say to that is zoinks. Happiest people in the world are in Denmark. And the reason, and by the way, that's subjective, of course, right? But they do say that the happiest people in the world per capita are in Denmark. And the reason is they're insanely social people. They have all kinds of social groups. I can tell you, North America, we just don't have that. I lived in Australia for like a decade and a half, and I can tell you that Aussies are insanely social. So translation, get face-to-face with people, calendarize it, make a plan. And let me tell you, AI is going to drive everybody nuts, starting with me. And that kind of excites me in a way because people are going to crave personal face-to-face time like never before, maybe like it was back in the day. And that is going to be a net positive for society, like big time. And the reason you want to put these people in these rooms, like great leaders don't create followers, they create other leaders, right? Like elite leadership. How do I say it? Elite leadership it's a minus sign, not a plus sign. It's subtraction. Great leaders eliminate, right? They eliminate drama. They eliminate chaos. They eliminate friction. They eliminate obstacles, problems. They build systems to eliminate mindless communication. They eliminate meetings. They eliminate noise, ego, etc. Right? So they create space for others to complete tasks and then ultimately succeed. What do your staff want? What do you want? What do I want? What does Road Dog want? We all want one thing. Your kids want the same. They want to succeed. The way you define success and the way I define success and the way that your kids will define success will be different. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to succeed. What does a great leader do? They create space for others to succeed. As I say that, I want you to think about professional sport, right? That's what a really good manager, a really good coach, an elite coach, Hall of Fame style coach, they create space for the players to succeed. And the way that a forward will succeed and the way that a fenceman will succeed and the way that a goalie will succeed will be different, but they create that space for them, right? And including the guy on the fourth line not getting a lot of rink time, they create space for that individual. How do they do that? They create that, like there's a penalty kill in a hockey team, right? You're shorthanded. No doubt it's pretty obvious. You're killing a penalty. You got penalty killers. Well, guess what? The guys riding the pine and the guys, in the fourth line can be perfect for that role. And what's part of that role? Blocking shots. What do you want your superstars not doing? Blocking shots. Why? Because you can get hurt and hurt really badly. So you take your fourth liners, you chuck them out there. But look, if they do this at a really, really high level, guess what? They're feeling success. They're not scoring 3 goals a game, but they're earning their money. They're getting their rink time and they're killing penalties like nobody's ever killed penalties before. And guess what? Next season, they're going to have their spot in the lineup, right? So anyway, so they trying to say there, you're not trying to create followers. You're trying to create other leaders. Like as a business coach, you're guiding business owners. Your goal isn't to, make them totally reliant on you, despite the fact that that's kind of what you want. But what you really want to do is create a dynamic where you elevate them. You turn them into a more like a leader. You create space for them to succeed, feel successful. You do that successfully. Guess what? They're not going anywhere. So, kind of be that person, be that leader to drive people. So I've got a buddy and, so he's an Aussie guy. He's a legit crocodile hunter, right? Like no joke. Like he would have crocodiles and he would jump on the crocodile's back. He would wrestle them. He'd tie them up And then ultimately they skin them for, cowboy boots and all that kind of thing, right? And I'm not, am I saying that I agree with that? I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I don't agree with it. All I'm telling you is the stories are literally lights out, like wild. Anyway, so here's the message, right? When do you want to kill a crocodile? And the answer is you want to get him after he ate, right? Why? Because he's satisfied, right? No doubt that makes sense. So when a good coach signs a great deal, they feel amazing. When a great coach closes a great deal, they feel nothing, right? Translation, and by the way, nuances to that on steroids. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have feeling and shouldn't get excited, to be clear, right? But what I don't want you to do is sign a client and then go to sleep. That happens with such regularity, it just blows my mind, right? You gotta stay like, they hit like the goal is 10 grand a month, right? The goal is 25 grand a month. The goal is 50 grand a month, whatever it is. Let's call it 10 grand a month. And what happens? They stop generating leads. They stop doing the weekly presentation. They stop taking the calls, making the calls, approaching the joint ventures, right? But the legends, the 7-figure operators, what do? They fly past it, right? So I always say the best time to make a sale is immediately after you make a sale, right? You're pumped. Your energy right after, like your energy on that call is going to be spectacular. I don't need to be on the call with you. Right. So again, the best time to make a sale is immediately after making a sale. What do most people do? They make a sale and then they go to sleep like the crocodile. Right. So like I actually wrote this on my Facebook page the other day, but like when you're in a negative frame of mind, you see obstacles and problems. And when you're in a positive frame of mind, you see solutions and you see opportunities, right? Like at focus.com, right? Like, I mean, it's pretty well documented. We do hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue a month. And I got to tell you, on a personal note, I am hungrier than ever before. Multiple reasons, which, you may or may not have heard, but my business partner of 17 years, God bless him, one of the greatest human beings I've ever had the good fortune of being exposed to, but he has passed away. He had a 7-year battle, 3 years specifically in the last 6 months. I mean, it was, he wasn't able to, we weren't able to, like, he was only able to, like, text and email for the last 6 months. Like I didn't speak to him for the last 6 months, but at the end of the day, may he rest in peace. God bless Adrian Osh. Love the man. Just greatest business partnership of my life by a long way. But at the end of the day, guess what? This leaves me with a dynamic where I am hungrier than ever before to build the greatest company and the greatest software for the business coaching industry and literally set the standard, which is what we've always, set out to do. And again, we've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this for 20 years and we were partnered up for 17 years. So with that said, success is often your enemy, right? When a shark swim backwards, what happens? It dies. They go forward, right? Be like a shark, always going forward. So when you're hungry, you're creative. When you're hungry, you find a way. When you're hungry, you look for solutions versus staring at the problems, right? But when you're satisfied, like the crocodile, you accomplish little to possibly nothing. And yes, of course, there's nuances to this, but the translation and maybe what I'm trying to bring across is I want you to stay hungry, right? Like my business partner passed away and I would do anything to be able to change that. The reality is that I can't. And what am I going to do? Like, if you see my phone, like, guess what I got on my phone? I've got a picture of my business partner. And why? Because every time I go to my phone, which sadly is dozens of times a day, which I'm embarrassed to say, but is reality. But guess who I'm staring at? And I'm staring at him. And guess what he's saying to me? Get to work. You got a job to finish and you bloody well, you just get to work, right? His favorite saying was Goya, get off your, I'll let you guess what the A is. Anyway, so that's, there's, I'm hungry, right? I'm hungry. Like the difference between Kobe, Jordan, Serena Williams, Roger Federer, Michael Schumacher, Gretzky, they stayed hungry. But I don't make this about me in any way, shape, or form. Frankly, this is about you, right? You staying hungry. But you just wonder, like Kobe had more money than he was ever going to need in 7 lifetimes. Jordan had all the championships and more money and adulation than, frankly, he wanted. Just watch the documentary, right? But what what did he do? How did he manage to stay on top? How did they stay on top? Hunger, right? They were totally hungry. I remember I got a good friend, Tony Mad Dog Russell. He's a professional boxer. And so what he used to say, so he would go, he would, be training. Let's say, they're training for 3 hours. Okay. And then 5 o'clock hits and everybody leaves the gym. Why? Because they got to get home to their families and eat dinner. Right. So Mad Dog, Tony would go into the shower with everybody else and he would have a shower, dry off. Everybody would go into the parking lot. They jump in their cars and then he would be, one of the last cars and he would drive out with them. Right. Well, guess what Tony did? He would drive around the block a couple of times and guess where he went back to? He went back to the gym. Why? Because he didn't want the other guys to know that he was putting an extra 2 hours of time in the gym. And why is that? As much as anything, and what he said to me, 100%, he said it was as much a mental edge for him as it was anything else. It was certainly a physical edge, but it was really a mental edge just to know that he had put in, a solid 10 to 14 hours extra than his competitors and the other guys every single week. And that's what he would do. So, yeah, Tony Mad Dog Russell, crazy guy. But so that again, at the end of the day, it's not about doing your best. It's about doing what it takes. Right. Reminds me of Dan Sullivan, the great coach. He says, if you want to make your present better, you got to make your future bigger. Right. Again, translations, set monster goals to keep yourself hungry. It's like an 80-20 thing, right? Like Ben Hardy, he says that when you make a monster goal, you need to eliminate 80% of what you would otherwise do to accomplish we'll call it an inferior, like a big goal versus a monster goal. To do the monster goal, the really, really, really big thing, 20x, 50x, 100x, what you would normally want to do, you're going to have to cut away 80%. Actually, we had a family here. So we had a family here for Christmas, and there are neighbors we lived in Canada, and their son's an elite hockey player, and I love the kid, right? He plays AAA, and he's 2 years younger than the rest of his teammates, right? He's 13 years old. Anyways, went for a drive, and him and I, we get along real good, right? Love the kid. And so I went for a drive and I asked him, so what's your goal in hockey? We talked about a lot of stuff, but that was I asked him, right? And he said to play pro in Europe and get a Swedish girlfriend. He also said that, no joke, right? He goes, so he wants to play pro in Europe and he wants to have a Swedish girlfriend. Maybe that's why I like him so much. But anywho, so I said, so play pro in Europe. What are you going to need to do? And he said, we went on back and forth. He's 13, right? So I'm directing him a little bit, but, he had to watch his diet. He's going to have to lift weights 3 times a week. Eat 100 shots a day. And then, around and around. And I said, I agree, right? And then I asked him, if you wanted to make $10 million a year and dominate in the NHL, what would you need to do? Right. And then, by the way, and as I asked him this, I also went to inversion and I asked him to screw up his plan of playing pro in Europe or the NHL. What would he need to do? Right. It was back and forth with a 13-year-old. Right. But he said, party, drink booze, experiment with drugs, not hit the gym, not do leg day, not keep up with his schoolwork, not listen to his coaches, be arrogant when he was the best player on the team, get mad when other players were not up to his standards, rather than helping them improve and bringing them along. Because at the end of the day, one player doesn't win a hockey game, right? You need a team, not to be a good leader, etc. Right? So we did inversion. So the end of the conversation, to make $10 million and dominate the NHL, which he loved that idea, right? But he wasn't thinking that big, right? So I helped him along. At the end of the day, my job is not to create his goal, but at the same time, together we kind of came there. And I was like, look, is that something that would really motivate you? Like dominating in the NHL and making all kinds of money and setting your family up, to have a great life. And he was like, yeah. So the plan ended up looking like And again, this was a while ago, right? But he needed an elite diet with tons of protein, right? Because he's going to have to be a big boy. Gym every day, not 3 times a day, but every day. Leg day multiple times per week, right? If you know anything about hockey, pretty obvious, right? But you got to have big, you got to your butt and your legs. You ever saw like Sidney Crosby, who would, one of the he'll go down as one of the best of all time. I mean, you ever saw the guy, like his butt and his legs are just monstrous. I mean, like monstrous. Anyway, so he's leg day. You skip leg day because you want to have a big chest and look good on the beach. That's not the roadmap for hockey. And then 1,000 shots a day is, I think, where we got to. He's going to have to be the most coachable kid. He's going to have to dial in on discipline and consistency. He'd need to sacrifice partying with his friends, double down on his schoolwork, right? Because otherwise it's going to become a distraction, probably miss out on some girlfriends, etc. And he said, yeah, that's not a problem. It's a good looking kid, right? It's not, it doesn't worry him. But the bottom line, the roadmap to dominate, where I'm trying to go, to dominate in the NHL, let's say again, making $10 million a year. And by the way, as I say 10 million, and you might be a baseball fan, you're like, only 10 million? That's going to put him up, that's going to make him a bad hockey player, isn't it? That's big money in the NHL, right? In order to dominate in the NHL, he's going to have to dial in on the critical 20% of the European plan and forgo the 80. Does that make sense? Like, again, he's just going to have to dial right in, and he's going to accept. And in order to do that, he's going to miss out on a lot of partying, a lot of hanging out with friends, to do, which, and again, he's an outgoing kid, and these are things that no doubt sound like a little bit of fun. But, if he wants to dominate in the NHL, and by the way, ask somebody who dominates in the NHL and let me know if they were going to parties every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And it's an absolute, it didn't happen, right? And yes, there's the anomalies, but we don't play the anomalies in business and life, right? It's all about math, and you go with the percentages. Anyway, so maybe there's a lesson in there for you in your coaching business. If you want to be a 7-figure coach, you want to be 6-figure, multiple 6-figure, ultimately hit 7 figures, you're going to need to dial in on the 20% of the plan and not get complacent when success comes, right? The crocodile eating, right? You got to stay disciplined, stay consistent, stay hungry, and invert the problem, right? Like, how do you not, answer this question, Charlie Munger 101. How do you not build a 7-figure coaching business? I don't know. You tell me, but don't build a list. Don't educate the list for free. Only send out sales types email and sales type dribble. Not do the podcast, not do the presentation, not generate the leads, not send out the text, not convert the clients, not practice, only, like Tom Brady threw the football for 6 days on his own and with his team. And then 1 day a week, he threw it in front of millions of people on Fox, right? So, or ESPN. Whatever, not a political statement. It's in general, I don't know. Fox, I think they play on Fox Sports. Sad that I feel necessary to say that. Anyways, not practice, not be late for appointments, not be late for your coaching calls. Lock in on ideation and not execution. Right? Horrible idea. It's all, remember, I don't give a crap about your ideas. I care about your execution. Don't show me your ideas and your list of ideas. Show me your execution on the best one, right? And not ask for referrals and not form the JB and not be convincing. And again, the late, great Charlie Munger, what he said is that I want to know where I'm going to die. And then somebody says, why is that? He said, well, so I'll never go there. Right? So that's it. And by the way, sounds like a throwaway line. You understand the things that came out of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger's mouths, always elite, right? That is not a throwaway line. I want to know where I'm going to go to die so that I never go there, right? It's inversion 101. You want to know, you want to have a great marriage, write a list of ways to have a terrible marriage, and you'll know where marriages go to die, right? You want to improve your sleep, write a list of ways to have a terrible sleep. And guess what? You'll know where, your sleeping pattern goes to die. Is that a thing? Anyways, and get your clients to do it. I don't know. So that's maybe a bit of some ideas around your plan for 2026. Should say this, magic. How do you say it? The magic is not in the plan. The magic is in the planning. I think that's Dwight Eisenhower, right? So everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, is what Mike Tyson would tell you, right? When you get punched in the mouth, that's when you need to refer back to your training. And then, like in the case of Jake Paul and these types of things, you can see how hard and how well you trained after you get punched in the nose and your game plan goes out the window, right? So you get it? So the magic is not in the plan, but the magic is in the planning. It's not in your business plan. It's in the process of going through to dial in your plan and dial in the avatar and dial in on your offer and dial in and all that, goes into that roadmap on that plan to get you to the 7-figure coaching business, right? Like avoiding ideas. This is a rabbit hole, by the way. This is why we need Road Dog here, ladies and gentlemen, because I just start talking. It's so stop. Hopefully entertaining and hopefully keeping your attention here. But like you want to avoid ideas like trial and error, right? So much data and direction out there. The roadmap is already well set out, especially in the case that you join, focus.com and your goal is to build multiple six-figure, become one of our unicorns at 7 figures and have a 7-figure coaching business. Like the roadmap is already created for you. So proper planning can turn decades into days. Like we can accelerate your coaching business multiple years by virtue of our tools and our training and the AI business coaching dojo, etc. Just it allows you to stand on the shoulders of giants rather than experiment. But regardless of what you're doing, how you're doing it, how your clients are doing it, trial and error is incredibly expensive. And in this day and age, with all of the different tools that are available, AI and otherwise, it's just not necessary to play it by ear. And yet trial and error, it's expensive. And frankly, it's stupid. I'm going to say it. It's stupid. And I understand that that's not what other people are saying, right? But I'm going to tell you, I think that's pretty damn good advice for your 2026 and your clients. Okay, one last question. What do they say here? What did you say to those? What do you say to those who say Nvidia and other AI stocks are a bubble? There we go. And by the way, and just business coaching secrets, guess what your clients are thinking about? Exactly this. Like Google is up. I think Google is up 64% this year. Again, I know Warren Buffett just put billions in the alphabet, by the way. Didn't hurt. But at the end of the day, your clients, at the end of the day, you get lucky and make it. You can't get lucky and keep it, right? It's not what you make, it's what you keep. So first of all, I don't know. Nor does Warren Buffett or anybody else. And I don't pretend to. Remember, the more sure somebody is about something like this, the less you should listen. Market feels insanely high when you consider those circular deals where OpenAI guaranteed to buy billions from Nvidia and Nvidia agreed to buy, billions from OpenAI, and then OpenAI commit like $300 billion to Oracle. And around it goes, and they don't even have 300 billion, this is the best bit of that. But anyways, it just kind of sounds insane no matter how you look at it. That said, I'd encourage you to veer towards going against the grain when everyone on CNBC and the press say the same thing. Go the other way and you'll probably be far better off. And then you would ask me why. Look, everyone can't win in the stock market. Not everybody can win when you invest, right? It's just not built that way. When you lose your money, it doesn't disappear into fresh air. It flows into someone else's direction, right? So let me give you a great analogy of sports betting, right? So the best example of how the stock market works is gambling on NFL football, or at least maybe not the greatest, but a good analogy. So I used to bet pretty heavily once upon a time on NFL football, made lots of money, by the way, especially during the playoffs. I used killer software. Like when you're betting on football, the more that's on the line, the more predictable the outcome is, right? So the software got the Super Bowl right every year, right? So, but one day I just stopped cold turkey because despite winning, it was a negative. It was a net negative in my life. Let's put it that way. My wife can back that up. And just when I won, I expected to. And when I lost, it just put me in a foul mood for some crazy reason. But anyway, so my dad used to be a professional gambler, so I know this world a little bit. My only advice is stay the hell away. Keep the teens the hell away. They're carrying little casinos in their pockets, and that is not going to end well. Zero chance of it ending less than terribly. But anyways, so if you have the best team playing the worst team, right? My 12-year-old daughter can tell you who would likely win, right? It's obvious. But that's why they create the spread. So the spread is where one team is favored by like 3.5 points, let's say. So the other team must win by 4 to win and beat the spread, right? So handicapping system, right? And they use it in golf and other places. So you're betting against the spread. You're not just betting two teams against one another. So if you don't follow it, you'd be amazed at how close the odds makers are and how often, right? So in other words, they have a 3.5 spread and the score of the game is like 3 or 4 points, blow you away, right? But the magic lies in the activity. If everyone is betting on one team, then the spread has to move, right? Because too much money in one direction creates too much exposure. So when that happens, it'll likely move too far, right? Translation, like what do I say? 3.5 point spread will become a 4.5 point spread on like the games on Sundays, like Saturday, Sunday before the game, right? Like all of a sudden the point spread moves. And you might be thinking, what's 1 point going to matter? Like who really cares? And trust me, it does big time, right? So there's this Jason Shapiro. He's a famous underground stock trader. You've probably never heard of him, by the way, but he has a betting system where he tracks 30 experts who make public football picks, right? So again, they're experts. When 25 of the experts pick the same team against the spread, which happens like 5 to 7 times a year, the other team wins 80% of the time, right? So again, when basically 25 of the experts pick the same team against the spread, which happens again once in a while, like 6 times a year, the other team will win 80% of the time, right? Is that because this guy's a pro football analyst? No, it's because 80% of the experts are betting one way. Then what's going to happen? 80% of the public, frankly, if not more, are going to be betting in the same direction. So that means that the point spread has to move. And if you followed what I said a minute ago, it's likely going to move too much because of the exposure issue. It's not an opinion. It's not something that I think. It's literally math, right? Like Vegas was built on like a 1.5% advantage to the house. And go to Vegas, look around at the hotels, and let me know if it's working. By the way, it's never been working worse than it is now because everybody's carrying Vegas in their pocket, but topic for another day. At the end of the day, Vegas has been wildly successful, wildly profitable for decades and decades and decades, right? So we'll go with that. So at the end of the day, it just moves too much, right? Like another way to arbitrage betting is to bet both sides, right? So example, when Canada plays the US, the Canucks, the Canadians will bet more on Canada and the Americans will place more on the American team, right? It's a 101, right? They're patriotic. So you bet on the Canadian team with a US sports book, and then you bet on USA with a Canadian sports book, right? There's going to be a small window, a translation, only a small window. I do not encourage you to spend a lot of time here, but I do encourage you to take away the lessons of the magic of the math, right? So there's going to be a small window where you literally can't lose by betting both sides, right? And by the way, the margin's going to be tight, but who cares? You literally can't lose. It's math, right? So all that to say, again, an expert stock picker that you wouldn't have heard of, but his name's Jason Shapiro. He's a superstar at, in the trading world, crushes, he hasn't crushed the S&P 500 for 1 or 2 years. He's done it for like 10 years consecutively, right? So he says something to the effect of the concept that a market's discounting mechanism is based on speculator participation, not price, is like the most important thing that he says he knows, right? That is so profound in my opinion, right? So translation, as an investor, you and your clients can easily beat the market by taking advantage of the emotion-based trading decisions of other folks in the market, right? So translation, you go short in times when bullish euphoria reigns supreme, and then simply go long when everyone is bearish, right? So you find out what everyone is doing, and you do the exact opposite. That's what he says, right? When everyone is in the same trade, they're going to lose money. Once again, it's not opinion, it's literally math. The same way I built my software on math, on compounding, right? Profit acceleration is the operating system to be installed. The language of business is accounting, but most coaches are scared of the math. Frankly, that's why I did it for them. But it's like if you look at Bitcoin over the past few years, it follows a lot of what I'm just describing in so many ways, right? And note the football pick a minute ago. And again, I don't want to make this about betting, but I want to make this about the lesson, right? You got to understand that the point spread on like the spread comes out on like Monday or Tuesday, right? It's not like on Tuesday, it's going to be the right spread. All the money's going to go in and around Saturday, Sunday morning, and that's where you're going to get, remember the percentage, that's where the spread's going to move a little bit too far, and you can take a little bit of advantage of it, right? Like the spread moves as the money moves, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I want to go back to the market's discounting system is based on speculator participation and not price. Like in football, betting against the spread, that's just really critically important to Shapiro. There's so much magic in that, in my opinion. That's something that I've been digesting over here the holidays. It's not based on price. It is based on where the money is going. So you asked me, I think I got a little bit away from, NVIDIA and AI stocks a bubble. Okay. What's my answer to that? My answer is that everybody's saying it's a bubble. So I don't know. You tell me, right? It's a bubble. It's a bubble. It's a bubble. There's going to be a correction. There's going to be the correction. There's going to be a correction. I don't know. And by the way, not financial advice. And I'm not sitting there, studying the stock market early until late. I know that your clients are thinking, should I invest in Bitcoin? Should I invest in the stock market? But I literally had beers last night on New Year's Eve with a guy. And we were talking about like literally exactly this. This guy's, he's got, he's, very successful guy and has lots of money, and he's made big bets on, like this year he's won big on Google, on Alphabet, and some other big stocks, right? So his question to me, black and white, right? He was very excited that I wrote a book on accounting and, could talk this language with him a little bit. And he's like, what do you like? Should I keep swinging for the fences on the NVIDIAs and the, open AI, maybe at some stage, or, you know what I mean? The Alphabets and the Metas, etc. I just said, again, you guys have heard me say this before, but you can get lucky and make it. You can't get lucky and keep it, right? What people do is they get rich slow and then try get richer fast, right? And that doesn't end very well as a general rule. And I told him without a shadow of a doubt, what I think, like AI, guys, I think how is AI going to affect the stock market? And obviously, the NVIDIAs and the Metas, etc. got AI all over them. Amazon put in that category also. But what's really going to happen is like 50% of the market is 10 of the companies. Hopefully you know that, but that's the reality, and that's crazy. There's 500 companies in the S&P 500, and 10 represent roughly 50% of the value. It's too much, obviously. A bit of concentration risk following in there. But I think that AI is going to wildly help the other 49 become significantly more profitable. Right. So what I said to him in no uncertain terms, I said, you don't want to be sitting there staring at the stocks all day, and you got a business to run, and you got, he's got 3 young kids, et cetera, and a wife to keep happy. And he wants to do some travel and got to optimize for a great life, right? Not staring at a computer. And I just said to him, without doubt, you should just dollar cost average the S&P 500. You've had a really good, he's invested over the last 3 years. He's crushed it. I would take I would take that. And I would dollar cost average the S&P 500 for the next decade. And by the way, it might go down by 20, 25%. It could go down by 40%. NVIDIA, Alphabet, all catch a cough. I mean, the stock market is going to get the pneumonia, right? It's a 101. But look at other times where that's happened, like the dot-com crash in 2008, et cetera. And what's happened? It's come roaring back, and significantly, it's come roaring back in record time. So that, I don't know. I'm not an expert, and I don't pretend to have the answers. And I'm with Warren Buffett. Don't know. But if we go by the last 100 years, that's what's going to happen. And I said dollar cost average the S&P 500, right? So what happens is if it goes down by 20, by 40%, you put in the same amount of money every week, every month, every quarter, every year, then you end up fine on the other end. Anyway, so I don't know for what that's worth. Do I think there's a bubble? Absolutely. I mean, it's just insane, but I don't know. If we listen to Jason Shapiro, and this is why I was listening to him and some others, by the way, they, the people that smoke the S&P 500 and the elite investors, because remember, your client, this is about business coaching. No, this is about the ultimate problem to solve is that, yeah, they want to build big businesses. Why do your clients want to build big, profitable businesses, not just big businesses, but big, profitable businesses so that they can achieve freedom? And what is freedom? Well, not being a slave to their business, right? Well, how do you do that? You can get lucky and make it. You can't get lucky and keep it. They got to sock some of this stuff away. When they just leave the money in a bank account, it's going down every month, right? So anyway, so I think this is a big problem to solve and something you should be educating. Do you have to become an expert? Do you got to read all the books? No, I don't think so. But what I do think is that you need to be understanding of the concept of wealth. And when somebody asks about, the stock market, knowing that, again, roughly 50% of the value is in 10 companies is something that I think you should understand and know. But anywho, there you go. So there's my answer. Go again with what's very consistent is that, and Warren Buffett just have a look. Maybe I'm right. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. But Warren Buffett just put billions and billions of dollars into Alphabet within the last very short period of time. If he thought that 40% of the market was going to get wiped anytime soon, I would dare say that he might have waited a little bit. Right. There's no expiry date or no emergency, despite the fact that he just stepped down. So maybe there was, I don't know. Got to look at that. You look at it. You know what? That's your job. You go look at it and understand it. And then you can pass that kind of knowledge on to your clients. But the experts all say that go against the grain. Contrarian, very, very popular opinion against the folks that are crushing the S&P 500 returns over the last decade and a bit. So I hope that helps, folks. Most importantly, I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to the podcast. I hope that it brings you some value. We love getting the feedback. I love hearing from people that enjoy it. And my boy Shoots, my boy's Road Dog, will be back next week. We'll be rocking it. So God bless you. Take care. We appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next episode, Business Coaching Secrets. Bye-bye.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.